A homeless woman, a bag lady, walked into First National Trust, clutching a plastic bag overflowing with change. The manager called security before she could even open her mouth. This is a story about dignity, about prejudice, about justice, and about a woman who lived 23 years on the streets, unaware that she was the heir to one of the largest fortunes in the country. If you've ever been judged by your appearance, if you've ever been treated like you were invisible, if you've ever felt like the world has forgotten you, then stay tuned. Because this story will show you that life has strange ways of balancing things out. Beatrice Auntie B. Williams was 71 years old. Everyone on the streets called her Auntie B. She was an African-American woman, heavy-set with completely white hair that was always tangled. Her clothes were old, patched so many times that you could no longer tell what the original color had been. Her shoes had holes. Her hands were cracked from the cold and hard work. But her eyes still held something that poverty hadn't managed to destroy: dignity. Auntie B lived under a bridge downtown, a piece of cardboard for a bed, a threadbare blanket she'd found in the trash years ago, a plastic bag where she kept everything she owned, which wasn't much, every morning before the sun came up. Auntie B was already awake. She'd fold up her cardboard, to pack away her blanket and go for a walk. Her routine was simple. First, the farmer's market. She'd arrive when the vendors were opening up. Some would give her bruised fruit that they couldn't sell. Others would give her day-old bread. Not out of charity, because Auntie B always helped out. She'd sweep the entrance to the market, carry boxes, watch the stalls when the vendors went to the restroom. She wasn't just any homeless person. She was part of the community. Invisible to some, indispensable to others. After the market, it was time for the cans. Auntie B would walk all over the city collecting aluminum cans. She'd crush them with her hands, put them in large bags, and every week she'd sell them at the recycling center. It wasn't much money, but it was hers, earned through her work, through her effort, and every single penny she earned, Auntie B saved it, because she had a dream, a small dream, modest, but important to her. She wanted to buy some medication for her blood pressure that had been bothering her lately. Dizziness, headaches, blurred vision. She knew she needed treatment, but medication costs money. Money she didn't have until now. For 6 months, Auntie B had saved every coin, every penny, every dollar she managed to scrape together. She kept them in a plastic bag that she hid inside her clothes, close to her heart, and finally, after 6 months, she had enough. Almost. She was a few dollars short. But there was a problem. All she had were coins, hundreds of small coins, and the pharmacy wouldn't accept them. Too many coins, they told her, too difficult to count. She needed to exchange them for bills, and for that, she needed to go to the bank. Auntie B had never been inside a bank. She had no account, no documents, nothing that connected her to the financial system that governed the world. But she had seen other people go in and out. She had seen the lines. She had seen the tellers counting money behind their windows. And she thought that maybe she could go in, ask them to exchange the coins, and leave. Simple. How hard could it be? It was a Tuesday in July. The day was cold, cloudy. Auntie B had washed her face in the park fountain. She had tried to comb her hair with her fingers. She had shaken out her clothes as best she could. She knew she didn't look good, but it was the best she could do. She walked towards the bank, First National Trust. A large building, imposing, with glass doors and security guards outside. She stopped in front of the entrance. Her heart was beating fast. Not out of fear, but something harder to explain. the feeling that she didn't belong there, that this world wasn't for her. But she needed that medication. She needed it. She took a deep breath and went inside. The air conditioning hit her first. Cold, clean, so different from the air on the streets. Then the smells, perfume, coffee, something chemical that was probably disinfectant. And the looks. The looks were the worst. Everyone turned to look at her. Everyone. The customers in line, the employees behind the desks, the security guards, and they all looked at her the same way, as if she were something dirty that had entered by mistake. Auntie B tried to ignore the looks. She walked towards the line. She stood at the end, waiting her turn like anyone else. But she wasn't just anyone else. That became clear immediately. A woman in front of her turned around. She was a woman in her 50s, dyed blonde hair, perfect makeup, designer bag, expensive clothes. The woman looked her up and down. Her nose wrinkled. Oh my God. What is that smell? Auntie B didn't answer. She lowered her gaze. The woman turned to the person in front of her. It's unbelievable. Now they let anyone in. This is a bank, not a shelter. More murmurs, more looks, more wrinkled noses. Auntie B squeezed her bag of coins against her chest. She kept waiting. The line moved slowly. Each minute felt like an hour. Each look felt like a blow. But Auntie B didn't leave. She couldn't. She needed that medication. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, she reached the window. The teller was young. Maybe 28 years old, black hair, kind eyes. Her name tag said Julie. Julie looked at her with something different, not with disgust, with curiosity, with something that might have been compassion. Good morning. Ma'am, how can I help you? Auntie B placed the bag of coins on the counter. I want to exchange these coins for bills, please. Julie looked at the bag. She looked at Auntie B. She nodded. Sure, let me see how much you have here. She started to open the bag. She started to count. But then a voice interrupted. Julie, what's going on here? It was the manager, a man in his mid-40s, expensive suit, silk tie, hair combed with gel. His name tag said, Mr. Thompson, manager. Mr. Thompson looked at Auntie B. His expression changed immediately, from professional to disgusted. Ma'am, this isn't the place for you. Auntie B looked at him, confused. I just want to exchange my coins. Please. Mr. Thompson shook his head. The bank doesn't do that kind of service, not for people from the streets. You need to leave. Julie intervened. Mr. Thompson, I can count them. It's not a problem. Mr. Thompson gave her a cold look. Julie, this isn't your concern. Get back to your work. But she just wants to, I said. Get back to work. Julie lowered her gaze, pressed her lips together. She didn't say anything else. Mr. Thompson turned towards Auntie B. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're disturbing our customers. A blonde woman spoke up from behind. Finally, it's about time. The smell is unbearable. Auntie B felt tears welling up. She held them back. She wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. Please. I just want to buy some medication. I need to exchange this change. It's mine. I earned it working. Mr. Thompson raised his hand. Security! A guard approached. He was a big man, strong. His name tag read Mark. Mr. Thompson pointed at Auntie B. Escort this woman to the exit and make sure she doesn't come back in. Mark nodded. He walked towards Auntie B. Ma'am, please come with me. Auntie B shook her head. But my change. It's mine. Mark took her arm. Not brutally, but firmly. You have to leave. It's the manager's orders. He started walking her towards the door. Auntie B tried to resist. Her old legs didn't have the strength, her tired body couldn't fight, and then the bag slipped from her hands. The change spilled onto the floor. Hundreds of coins, rolling everywhere, making a metallic clatter that filled the entire bank. Auntie B knelt down. She tried to pick them up. Her hands were shaking. Please, they're mine. I need them. No one helped her. Customers stepped aside to avoid stepping on them. Some kicked them unintentionally. Others kicked them on purpose. Mr. Thompson yelled. Mark, get her out of here, now! Mark lifted her from the floor. He dragged her towards the door. Auntie B looked back. She saw her coins scattered across the marble floor. 6 months of work, 6 months of effort, 6 months of dreams, lost. Mark pushed her out of the bank. The glass doors closed behind her, and Auntie B was left on the streets, alone, without her money, without her dignity. The tears finally came. She couldn't hold them back anymore. She sat down on the curb, put her head in her hands, and wept. She cried like she hadn't cried in years. She cried for the lost change. She cried for the medication she couldn't buy. She cried for all the years on the streets, for all the humiliations, for all the days of hunger and cold. She cried for a life that had never given her anything. I just wanted my medication, she whispered between sobs. Just wanted my medication. She didn't know how long she cried. Minutes, maybe longer, but then she heard a voice. Excuse me, Auntie B. Santos? Auntie B looked up. A man was standing in front of her. He was about 55 years old. Grey hair, an elegant but not flashy suit, a kind expression, respectful. He was holding a leather briefcase. Auntie B looked at him, confused. She wiped the tears from her face with the back of her hand. How do you know my name? Who are you? The man crouched down to be at her level, to look her in the eyes. My name is Sam Montgomery. I'm a lawyer, and I've been looking for you for 2 years. Auntie B shook her head. There must be some mistake. I don't know any lawyers. I have nothing. I owe nothing. Sam smiled gently. There's no mistake, Auntie B, and you don't owe me anything. On the contrary. He opened his briefcase. He took out an old photograph, yellowed with age, worn around the edges, and he showed it to her. Auntie B took the photo with trembling hands, and her heart stopped. The photo showed 2 little girls, one about 10 years old, the other about 6. They were hugging, smiling, wearing simple but clean dresses. Auntie B knew that photo. It was hers. Connie, she whispered. The smaller girl in the photo was Connie, her younger sister. The sister who had disappeared 40 years ago. The sister who had left one night and never come back. Auntie B had spent years looking for her, asking around, hoping, but she never found her. And eventually, after losing everything else, she had stopped looking. She had assumed that Connie was dead or that she had forgotten her. Sam nodded. Your sister never forgot you, Auntie B. Never. She looked for you her whole life, and now, after 40 years, I've finally found you. Auntie B couldn't speak. She couldn't think. The tears started falling again, but now they were different. My sister, Connie, where is she? Can I see her? Sam lowered his gaze. His expression changed. It became softer, sadder. I'm so sorry, Auntie B. Your sister passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. Auntie B's world collapsed for the second time in 10 minutes. She's dead. My little sister is dead. Yes. And I deeply regret having to tell you like this. But there's something else. Something you need to know. Auntie B looked at him through the tears. What else could there be? My sister is dead. I have nothing left. Sam shook his head. You're wrong, Auntie B. Your sister left you something. She left you everything. He took another document out of his briefcase. Your sister Connie emigrated to the United States when she was 18 years old. She worked hard. She studied. She became a computer programmer. She founded a tech company. And that company grew and grew until she sold it 5 years ago for an amount that I still have trouble believing. Auntie B listened, uncomprehending. What does that have to do with me? Sam looked her directly in the eyes. Auntie B, your sister never married. She never had children. She never stopped thinking about you. She searched for you for 40 years. She hired investigators and detectives. But you had disappeared. You had no documents, no address. It was as if you had vanished. I lived on the streets. That's why she never found me. Exactly. And when she knew she was sick, when she knew she was going to die, she left very clear instructions. Everything she had, absolutely everything, was to go to you, her only sister, her only family. Auntie B shook her head. I don't understand. What did she leave me? Sam took a deep breath. Auntie B, your sister left you $2.3 billion. The silence that followed was absolute. Auntie B stared at him, waiting for him to say it was a joke, waiting for him to say he had mistaken her for someone else, waiting for anything that made sense. That's impossible, she said finally. That can't be true. Sam nodded slowly. I know. It's hard to believe, but it's true. Every penny is documented. Every property, every investment. It's all in your name, waiting for you for 2 years. I just needed to find you. Auntie B looked back at the bank, the glass doors that had expelled her minutes before. The coins that were still scattered on the floor inside, $2.3 billion. And 10 minutes ago, she had been thrown out of a bank for trying to exchange some change. She started to laugh, a laugh that started small, nervous, and it grew until it turned into outright laughter. Laughter mixed with tears, with sobs, with something that could have been hysteria. Samuel watched her without saying a word, letting her process. Finally, Auntie B calmed down. She wiped her face and looked at Samuel. This is real, truly real. Absolutely real. Samuel confirmed. I have everything in my office. Documents, accounts, properties, everything. When you're ready, we can go see it. Auntie B nodded slowly. And then she looked towards the bank once more and said something Samuel didn't expect. First, I want to get my change back. Samuel looked at her, surprised. Your change. Yes, the change they took from me. The change that's on the floor in there. I want it back. Samuel frowned. Auntie B, with all due respect, you now have $2.3 billion. That change. It's mine. Auntie B interrupted. I earned it with my work for 6 months, and they took it from me. It doesn't matter how much money I have now. That change is mine, and I want it back. Samuel watched her for a long moment. And then he smiled. I understand. And you're right. It's yours. He stood up, offered her his hand to help her up. Let's go get your change. But Auntie B shook her head. No, not yet, not like this, not like this. Auntie B looked at herself. Her old clothes, her dirty hair, her cracked hands. They just threw me out of there like I was garbage. If I go in now, even with you, they'll see me the same way. The bag lady, the beggar, the woman who is worthless. And what do you want to do then? I want them to see me differently. I want them to look at me and not know who I am. I want to walk in like a client, like any other person. And then, when they treat me with respect, I want them to know who they humiliated." Samuel nodded slowly. "You want them to experience what you experienced, but in reverse." "Exactly. I want them to treat me like a person first, and then I want them to know that the person they treated like garbage now owns more money than they will ever see in their entire lives." "There's something else you need to know," Samuel said after a moment. "What is it?" "When you walk into that bank as a multi-billionaire, they are going to want your money. They're going to crawl. They're going to apologize. They're going to do everything possible to have you as a client." Auntie B smiled, a smile that had very little joy and a lot of justice. "I know, and that's why I'm not going to give them a single cent. They're going to know what they lost by treating me the way they did." Samuel let out a small laugh. "Auntie B, I think you and I are going to get along very well." He led her to his car, a black sedan parked a few feet from the bank. He opened the door, helped her inside. Auntie B sat in the leather seat, soft, comfortable, so different from the cardboard where she had slept the night before. "Where are we going?" Auntie asked. "First, to my office. You need to see the documents, understand everything you have, and after that, I'll take you to a hotel where you can rest, take a shower, and decide what to do." Auntie B nodded. The car started, passed in front of the bank. Auntie B looked out the window. She saw Mark, the security guard, standing at the door. She saw through the glass how the customers were going on with their lives as if nothing had happened, and she knew she would be back, but this time things would be very different. Samuel's office was in an elegant building in the financial district of the city, marble floors, silent elevators, secretaries in impeccable suits. Everyone turned to look at Auntie B when she walked in, a woman in street clothes, dirty, out of place. But Samuel walked beside her as if she were the most important person in the world, and no one said a thing. He led her to a conference room, big, with a polished wooden table, leather chairs, a panoramic view of the city. Auntie B sat down, looked out the window. She could see the bridge where she used to sleep, small, distant, another world. Samuel opened his briefcase, pulled out folder after folder, document after document, photograph after photograph, and began to tell the story. The story of Connie. Her sister had run away from home at 18, not out of malice, out of desperation. Their parents had died. Auntie B was already married, and Connie felt like she had no place in the world. She traveled to the United States with what little she had. She worked cleaning houses, washing dishes, doing everything she could to survive. But Connie was smart, brilliant. In fact, and while she worked, she studied. She learned English, she learned math, she learned computer science. In the 80s, when computers were still rare, Connie was already programming. She created small programs, then larger ones, and eventually she founded her own company, a software company that grew and grew, that survived the dot-com bubble, that adapted and evolved until it became one of the most important in Silicon Valley. Samuel showed photos. Connie young, working on an old computer. Connie middle-aged, receiving a business award. Connie older, with grey hair, smiling next to her team. And in every photo, something that Auntie B didn't expect. On Connie's desk, in every photo, there was a framed photograph. The same photo that Samuel had shown her on the street. The two sisters embracing, smiling. "She never forgot you," Samuel said softly. "Never. Every day of her life, she had that photo on her desk. And every day, she asked me if we had found anything new." Auntie B took one of the photographs with trembling hands. Connie older, resembling her, The same eyes, the same smile. Why didn't she find me before? Why did it take so long? Samuel sighed. Because you disappeared. Auntie B, after your husband died, after you lost your job, you ceased to exist for the system. No documents, no address, no bank account. It was like looking for a ghost. I was on the streets, in the same city for 23 years. We know now, but Connie never stopped looking. She hired researchers, detectives, published ads in newspapers, but you had no access to any of that. Auntie B closed her eyes. 23 years. Wonder, she murmured. She was looking for me, and I was just blocks away, without knowing. Samuel nodded. I'm sorry. I know this is a lot. I know it's difficult. Auntie B opened her eyes. Tears were falling without her being able to control them. My sister died thinking she never found me. She died with hope, Samuel corrected. Until the last moment, she believed we would find you, and she left very clear instructions. Everything for you, absolutely everything, without conditions, without restrictions. He took out the will and placed it in front of Auntie B, from the $1.3 billion in bank accounts and investments. 4 properties in the United States, 2 in Europe, a charitable foundation that she created, shares in 3 different companies, and this. Samuel pulled out a letter, a yellowed envelope, with her name written on the front. She wrote this 3 years ago, when she knew she was sick. She left instructions to give it to you when we found you. Auntie B took the envelope with trembling hands. She opened it. And read, dearest B, if you're reading this, it means you've finally been found, and it means I'm no longer there. I'm so sorry I can't see you one last time. I'm so sorry I can't hug you like when we were girls. I'm sorry for all the lost years, but I want you to know something. I never forgot you. Not a single day. In every success I had, I thought of you. In every difficult moment, I remembered your strength. You were my older sister, my protector, my best friend. I ran away because I was young and stupid, because I thought I could do things on my own. And when I wanted to come back, when I wanted to look for you, it was already too late. You had disappeared. I spent 40 years trying to find you, and now, even though it's late, I want to give you everything I have. Not because you need it, but because you deserve it. For all the years you took care of me, for all the sacrifices you made, for being the best sister anyone could have. Use this money as you wish. Live well. Be happy. And if you can, help others. Help the people that no one else sees. Because I know that even though you've gone through hard times, your heart is still the same. Generous, kind, good. I love you, sister. I always loved you. And even though I can't be there with you, a part of me will always be in everything I leave you, until we meet again. Your sister, Connie. Auntie B held the letter against her chest and wept. She cried for the sister she never found again, for the 40 years of separation, for the words that came too late, for the love that was never lost. Samuel remained silent, respectful, letting her process. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Finally, Auntie B wiped away her tears. She folded the letter carefully. She put it in her pocket, close to her heart. "What do I need to do now?" she asked. Samuel nodded. "First, we need to confirm your identity. Fortunately, we have your fingerprints from when you worked as a housekeeper decades ago. That will be enough to start. And then the money will officially be yours. But that will take a few days. In the meantime, I've authorized an advance for your immediate needs. He handed her a credit card. This card has a limit of $500,000 for whatever you need. Auntie B looked at the card as if it were something from another planet. $500,000 for whatever she needed. Just an hour ago, she didn't have enough for medication. Life was absurd, cruel and absurd, but also, apparently, it could be generous. Samuel took her to a hotel. Not the most luxurious in the city, but elegant, comfortable, clean. The receptionist looked at Auntie B with confusion when she walked in. But Samuel handed over his card, asked for the best suite, and the receptionist obeyed without question. The suite was bigger than any place Auntie B had ever lived. 3 bedrooms, a living room, a bathroom with a jacuzzi, a view of the entire city. Auntie B walked through the space in silence, touching the walls, feeling the fabrics of the curtains, looking at herself in the mirrors. The woman she saw in the mirror was the same as always, old, wrinkled, tired. But something in her eyes had changed, something that hadn't been there in 23 years. Hope. An assistant arrived shortly after, bringing suitcases with new clothes, shoes, hygiene products, everything she might need. "This is courtesy of Mr. Thompson," the assistant explained. "If you need anything else, just call." Auntie B nodded, unable to speak. When the assistant left, she sat on the sofa and stayed there, looking at the ceiling, trying to process everything that had happened. A few hours ago, she was a homeless woman, an invisible woman, a shadow, and now she was a billionaire. It made no sense. None of this made sense. But it was real, and she had to accept it. She got up, went to the bathroom, turned on the hot water, and for the first time in years, she took a real bath. With hot water, with soap that smelled like flowers, with shampoo that foamed. She cried while bathing, not from sadness, from something more complicated, from relief, from liberation, from years and years of pain washing down the drain. When she got out, she looked at herself in the mirror. She was still her. She was still Auntie B. But now she was clean and ready. Ready for what was coming. She spent 3 days in the hotel. 3 days of hot food, of a soft bed, of silence, of peace. But she didn't stay still. She called Samuel every day, asked about the documents, about the process, about what she needed to do. And she asked about one specific thing. The teller, the one at the bank. "Julie, can you find out something about her?" Samuel did. Julie Ferreira, 28 years old, single, has worked at the bank for 4 years. Good performance, but has never been promoted. The manager, Mr. Thompson, has her marked for something that happened 2 years ago. What happened? Julie reported that Mr. Thompson was harassing another employee. The complaint didn't go anywhere, but Mr. Thompson never forgave her. Auntie B nodded. "I want to meet her. After we go to the bank." Samuel understood. "You want to offer her a job. I want to offer her a choice. What she decides is her business." On the 4th day, Auntie B was ready. She dressed in the new clothes, elegant but simple. A black dress, comfortable shoes, a pearl necklace that Samuel had given her as an advance on Connie's jewelry. She looked at herself in the mirror. She no longer looked like a homeless woman. She looked like a lady, A dignified lady, respectable, but under the dress, hidden in an inside pocket, she carried something else. The same old patched blouse she was wearing when she was kicked out of the bank, a reminder of who she was, of where she came from, of what she should never forget. Samuel arrived in a limousine. It wasn't necessary, Auntie B had told him. It's symbolic, Samuel had replied. You want them to see you, to understand, so that there is no doubt. Auntie B had accepted. She got into the limousine, sat on the leather seat. And as the car drove towards the bank, she thought of Connie, of the sister she never found again, of the love that was never lost, of the justice she was about to do. The limousine stopped in front of First National Trust, the same glass doors, the same guards outside, the same imposing building. But this time, Auntie B felt no fear. She felt something very different. "Let's go," she said to Samuel, and she stepped out of the limo. The guard, Mark, saw it first. A black limo pulling up in front of the bank, a door opening, an older woman getting out. Mark didn't recognize her. How could he? The last time he'd seen her, she was a bag lady in ragged clothes. Now she was an elegant lady, with a pearl necklace. But something about her seemed familiar, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. "Good morning, ma'am," said Mark, opening the bank door. "Welcome to First National Trust." Auntie B looked him straight in the eyes. "Thank you," she said. "That's very kind." Mark nodded and stood there, still not recognizing the woman he'd dragged out of the bank just 4 days before. Auntie B walked inside. The air conditioning, the smells of perfume and coffee, the stares of the customers. Everything was the same. But this time, the stares were different. The customers looked at her with curiosity, not disdain. The employees smiled. They didn't frown. The whole atmosphere felt different when you were dressed elegantly. Samuel walked beside her. 2 other assistants followed, all in suits, all projecting importance. And then Mr. Thompson appeared. The manager walked toward them with his best smile, the predator smile he reserved for important clients, the smile that meant commissions and bonuses. "Good morning," he said, extending his hand to Samuel. "I'm Mr. Thompson, manager of this branch. How can I help you today?" Samuel didn't take his hand. "We're here to speak with the bank's administration. We have a matter to discuss." Mr. Thompson maintained his smile, though it was a little more strained now. "Of course. And who is the lady, if I may ask?" Auntie B stepped forward. "That's none of your concern. Yet." Mr. Thompson blinked. He wasn't used to being spoken to like that. "Excuse me, ma'am. I was just trying to—" "What you're trying to do is figure out how much money we have," Auntie B interrupted, "to know how much to grovel. I'll make it easy for you. I have enough to buy this bank 10 times over. Now, take us to a private office." Mr. Thompson swallowed hard. The smile vanished completely. "Of course. This way, please." He led them to the largest office in the bank. A meeting room with glass walls, conference table, leather chairs. Auntie B sat at the head of the table, as if she owned the place, because, technically, she could, if she wanted to. "Mr. Thompson," Auntie B said calmly, "I need you to do something for me." "Anything, ma'am. We're here to serve you." "Bring in the teller named Julie. And also, bring the security guard from the entrance. Mark, I think his name is." Mr. Thompson frowned. "Julie and Mark. May I ask what for?" "No. Bring them. Now." Mr. Thompson hesitated, but something in Auntie B's eyes told him it wasn't a good idea to refuse. "Right away, ma'am." He left the office. Auntie B looked out the glass window. She could see the bank outside, the customers in line, the tellers working. She saw the blonde woman, Patricia, sitting on a couch waiting her turn. Everything the same. Everything about to change. A few minutes later, the door opened. Julie entered first. Nervous, confused, her eyes searching for an explanation. Behind her, Mark, equally confused. And behind them, Mr. Thompson, looking like he didn't understand what was happening. "Close the door, Mr. Thompson," Auntie B ordered. Mr. Thompson obeyed. "Now, sit down, all three of you." They sat down, Julie and Mark in silence. Mr. Thompson with growing unease. Auntie B took a moment. She looked at each of them, studying their faces. "Julie," she began, "4 days ago, a bag lady came into this bank. Remember?" Julie paled. "Yes, I remember." "What happened to her?" Julie glanced at Mr. Thompson, then back to Auntie B. "The manager ordered her to be removed. I tried to help her, but Mr. Thompson told you to get back to your job." Julie nodded. "Yes." Auntie B turned to Mark. "And you, Mark, what did you do?" Mark swallowed hard. "I followed orders. I escorted her out of the bank. You took her change. I didn't. She dropped it. And it fell. And nobody picked it up." Mark lowered his gaze. "No." Auntie B finally looked at Mr. Thompson. "And you, Mr. Thompson, the manager, the one who gives the orders. What exactly did you do?" Mr. Thompson began to sweat. "Ma'am, with all due respect, why are you asking me this? Who are you?" Auntie B stood up. Slowly, she reached into her dress and pulled out the old blouse. Mended. Dirty. The same blouse she was wearing when she was thrown out. She placed it on the table and watched the expressions on their faces change. Julie was the first to understand. Her eyes widened. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's you. The lady with the change." Mark went pale. And Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson looked like he was going to throw up. "That's right. I'm the bag lady," Auntie B confirmed. "The one you threw out of your bank. The one you dragged into the street. The one you humiliated in front of all your customers. Ma'am, I didn't know I had no idea that I was a billionaire. I know. That's what makes this so interesting. Billionaire," Mr. Thompson repeated in a choked voice. "What?" Samuel spoke up. "Allow me to formally introduce Ms. Benedita dos Santos, heiress to $2,300,000,000, about to be the most important client this bank could ever have, if you hadn't thrown her out on the street like garbage." The silence that followed was devastating. Mr. Thompson opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Ma'am, Miss Dos Santos, please, you have to understand. I didn't know who you were. If I had known..." "What?" "You would have treated me like a human being." Yes. I mean, but you didn't. Because you didn't know I was rich. Because you thought I was just a bag lady. A poor old woman, someone unimportant." Mr. Thompson began to babble. "I can make it up to you. We can. The bank can. Whatever you need. VIP service. Premium accounts. Preferred rates. Anything. Auntie B shook her head. I'm not interested in your bank, Mr. Thompson. I'm not putting a dime here. I'm taking my money somewhere else. Somewhere where they don't judge people by their appearance. Mr. Thompson collapsed. Ma'am, please, if you do that, if this story gets out, my career, your career, Auntie B repeated coldly. Interesting, that's the first thing you're worried about. Not the damage you did, not the humiliation you caused, not the change you stole. Your career. Mr. Thompson had no answer. Auntie B turned to Julie. Julie, you tried to help me that day. You were the only one. Julie nodded, tears in her eyes. Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. I should have done more. You weren't in a position to do more. And now I want to make you an offer. Julie looked at her, confused. An offer? I want you to work for me, as my personal assistant. I'm going to need someone to help me navigate this new world. Someone I can trust. Someone with a good heart. Julie was speechless. Me? But I don't know if... The salary would be 10 times what you earn here, with full benefits. Travel. Opportunities for growth. And above all, you'll never have to put up with a boss like Mr. Thompson again. Julie glanced at Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson looked back with desperation, as if her leaving would only make things worse. Julie made a decision. I accept, she said with a firm voice. I accept with pleasure. Auntie B smiled. Excellent. You can start tomorrow. Samuel will give you the details. She turned towards Mark. And you, Mark, what do you have to say? Mark stood up, trembling. Ma'am, I was just following orders. I have a family, kids. I need this job. I know, and I'm not going to take your job away. But I want you to remember something. Every time you follow an order without thinking, every time you treat someone as if they're less than human, remember this day. Remember that the bag lady you kicked out of the bank was a multimillionaire. And remember that the next person you humiliate could be someone important too. Mark nodded quickly. I'll remember it. I promise. And one more thing. I want you to go to the lobby, right now, and pick up all the change that was spilled 4 days ago. Every single coin, and bring them back here. Mark almost ran out. Auntie B turned to Mr. Thompson one last time. As for you, Mr. Thompson, I'm not going to ask you to resign. I'm not going to directly destroy your career. Mr. Thompson breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for... But, Auntie B interrupted, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to tell this story. To the press, to social media, to anyone who will listen. And I'm going to let people decide what to do with you. Mr. Thompson's relief vanished. Ma'am, please, if you do that. I already have, Mr. Thompson. Samuel has already spoken with 3 journalists. The story breaks tomorrow. Mr. Thompson slumped back in his chair. I'm finished. I don't know. Maybe people will forgive you. Maybe they won't. But at least you'll have to face what you did. And that's more than people like me usually get. The door opened. Mark entered carrying a plastic bag. The coins, ma'am. All I could find. Auntie B took the bag. She looked inside. Hundreds of small, dirty, trampled coins. How much is here? She asked. Mark replied, I counted it. It's $237.50. Auntie B smiled. $237. 6 months of work, what I needed to buy my medication. She opened the bag, pulled out a coin, held it up in front of Mr. Thompson. This coin is worth less than $1, but it represents something you'll never understand. It represents dignity. It represents effort. It represents the difference between surviving and giving up. She put the coin in her pocket. I'm going to keep these coins, not because I need them, but to remember, to never forget where I came from, to never become someone like you. She turned around, walked towards the door, and then she stopped. One more thing. She turned towards the glass window, towards the waiting room, towards where Patricia, the blonde woman, was still sitting, waiting her turn. That woman over there, the blonde one, she's a customer of this bank. Mr. Thompson nodded weakly. Yes, Mrs. Mendonça. Tell her to come in. Mr. Thompson looked confused. Why? Just tell her to come in. Mr. Thompson went out, spoke with Patricia, brought her into the office. Patricia entered with a confused but haughty expression. She still didn't know who Auntie B was. Good afternoon. I was told you wanted to see me. Who are you people? Auntie B looked at her. 4 days ago, in this bank, you complained about a smell. You said it was unbearable. You asked that a bag lady be removed from the premises. Patricia frowned. So what? That woman had no business being here. That woman was me. Patricia looked at her elegant clothes, her pearl necklace, looked at the assistants behind her, and started to laugh. You? Please. There's no way you are. Auntie B took out her phone, showed her a photo, the photo of herself 4 days ago, with the old clothes, the dirty hair, the cracked hands. Patricia stopped laughing. It can't be. It can be, and it is. I'm the same bag lady you found so disgusting, the same one you wanted to throw out of the bank. Only now I have $2.3 billion, and you have to explain why you treated another human being like trash. Patricia paled. I didn't know. You didn't look. Didn't look what? Rich? Important? Deserving of respect? Patricia had no answer. I'm going to tell you something, Mrs. Mendonça. I'm not a vindictive person. I'm not going to ruin your life, but I want you to think about this. The next time you see someone on the streets, someone poor, someone dirty, someone who seems less than you, think of me. Think of this moment, and remember that we're all human beings. We all deserve dignity. Patricia lowered her gaze. I'm sorry, she muttered. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did, but I accept your apology anyway. Auntie B walked towards the door, and Patricia remained there, in the middle of the office, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to process what had just happened. The humiliator had been humiliated, and the bag lady walked out of the bank, walking like a queen. The story broke in the media the next day. Humiliated bag lady in bank turns out to be multi-billionaire heiress. The headlines were everywhere: television, radio, newspapers, social media. The bank's security video was leaked. Someone, probably a disgruntled employee, had sent it to the media, and the entire country saw what happened that day. They saw Auntie B enter with her bag of coins. They saw the looks of contempt. They saw Patricia complaining about the smell. They saw Mr. Thompson ordering her expulsion. They saw Mark dragging her towards the door. They saw the coins falling to the ground, and they saw Auntie B crying on the sidewalk. The video went viral. Millions of people saw it. Millions commented. Millions were outraged. Mr. Thompson was fired 2 days later, not by the bank. The bank tried to protect him, but the public pressure was too great. Customers started withdrawing their accounts. The bank's reputation was crumbling. Mr. Thompson resigned before they could fire him. He lost everything. His job, his reputation, his career. No one in the financial sector wanted to hire him. He was the manager who had humiliated a billionaire. That video, it became a symbol of everything that was wrong with the banks. Mr. Thompson ended up working at a convenience store, earning minimum wage, living in a small apartment, not exactly on the streets, but as close as he'd ever been. Julie also suffered consequences. Her video, the moment she complained about the smell, it went viral. She became a meme, became the face of the woman who looked down on the poor, a symbol of classism and prejudice. Her friends from the country club stopped talking to her. Her neighbors avoided her. Her own children were ashamed to be seen with her in public. Julie deleted all her social media accounts. She stopped going to events. She locked herself away in her house. It wasn't exactly karma, but it was pretty damn close. And Mark kept working as a security guard, but something had changed in him. Every time he saw someone poor come into the bank, he remembered Auntie B. Every time a manager ordered him to remove someone, he wondered if it was the right thing to do. One day, he refused to throw out an elderly man who only wanted to use the restroom. He was fired for insubordination, but he found another job at a homeless shelter. He earned less, but he slept better. Sometimes redemption comes at a price, but it's worth paying. Julie started working for Auntie B the day after the incident at the bank. At first, she was just an assistant, helping with paperwork, organizing meetings, answering phones. But Julie was more than that. She was smart, capable, hardworking, and above all, she had something that Auntie B valued more than any college degree. She had heart. Within 6 months, Julie became Auntie B's right-hand woman. She learned about finance, about investments, about how to manage a multi-million-dollar fortune. And Auntie B treated her like a daughter because Julie reminded her of Conceição, young, bright, full of potential. She just needed someone to believe in her. And Auntie B believed. But money wasn't the most important thing to Auntie B. It never had been. What she really cared about were people. The people who lived like she had lived. The invisible people. The forgotten people. That's why, 3 months after inheriting her fortune, Auntie B founded something. It was called Conceição House. It was a homeless shelter. But not just any shelter. It was a place where people could live with dignity. Private rooms, clean bathrooms, hot meals 3 times a day, doctors who visited regularly, psychologists, social workers, and something else. Something that no other shelter had. Reintegration programs, computer classes, vocational workshops, help getting documents, support finding work. Everything a person needed to get back into society. Because Auntie B knew something that others didn't. People on the streets didn't want handouts. They wanted opportunities. They wanted a second chance. In its first year, Conceição House helped 512 people. 323 of them got jobs. 189 found permanent housing. 47 were reunited with family members they had lost contact with. They were numbers, but behind each number was a story, a life, a human being who was no longer invisible. Auntie B knew each one. She knew their names, their stories, their dreams, because she had been one of them, and she never, not for a second, forgot that. Sometimes, Auntie B would go back to the bridge where she had lived for 23 years, not to stay, just to remember. She would look at the cardboard she slept on, the tattered blanket, the cold, damp place that had been her home, and she would think of Conceição, of the sister who looked for her for 40 years, of the love that never died, of the gift she had left her. Not the money, not the properties, not the investments. The gift was the opportunity to help others, the opportunity to do what Conceição would have wanted to do, the opportunity to turn pain into purpose. One day, while visiting the bridge, she found someone. It was a young woman, maybe 30 years old, sitting where Auntie B used to sit, with a plastic bag as a pillow, a thin blanket over her shoulders. Auntie B sat down beside her. The woman looked at her suspiciously. "What do you want?" "I don't have any change. I'm not here to ask you for anything. I'm here to tell you something." The woman frowned. "Tell me what?" "A year ago, I was sleeping exactly where you're sitting. I was a bag lady. I had nothing, and I thought I was going to die on the streets." The woman let out a bitter laugh. "And what happened?" "You won the lottery." "Something like that. I inherited a fortune from my sister, and now I have more money than I can spend in 10 lifetimes. The woman looked at her incredulously. "Yeah, right. And I'm the Queen of England." Auntie B pulled out her phone. She showed her the video from the bank, the moment she was thrown out, the moment she cried in the street. The woman watched it. Her eyes widened. "It's you, the bag lady from the bank, the one who was on the news. It's me, and now I have a shelter where you can stay. Food, a bed, help finding a job, if you want it." The woman started to cry. "Why? Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Because someone helped me when I needed it most. Because I know what it feels like to be where you are. And because my sister left me this money to do exactly this, to help people like us." The woman wiped away her tears. "What's your name?" Benedita, but everyone calls me Auntie B." "I'm Lucy." Auntie B held out her hand. "Nice to meet you, Lucy. Let's go to Conceição house. You'll like it." Lucy took her hand, and she got up. It was the first step of thousands to come. Today, as I write this story, Auntie B is 73 years old. She lives in a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. Not in a mansion, not in a penthouse. A simple house with a garden where she can grow flowers. Julie lives nearby. She got married a year ago to an engineer she met at one of Auntie B's charity galas. She's expecting her first child. They've already decided on the name. If it's a girl, they'll name her Conceição. Conceição House now has 3 locations in different cities. More than 2,000 people have passed through it. More than half have managed to reintegrate into society. Awards have come, recognition, medals, invitations to speak at international conferences. Auntie B turns down most of them. "I'm not looking for fame," she always says. "I'm looking for change." And change is happening. Other business owners have donated money to Conceição House. The government has created programs inspired by her model. Other cities are replicating her system. Slowly, very slowly, homeless people are starting to become visible. Thanks to a bag lady who was once thrown out of a bank. Thanks to a sister who never stopped searching. Thanks to a love that survived 40 years of separation. "Money helps," says Auntie B when people ask about her work. But what really changes things is love. My sister's love saved me. And now, that love is saving others. When I asked her what she learned from all of this, she was silent for a moment. Then she smiled. That smile of hers. The smile of someone who has seen the worst and the best of life. "I learned that appearances mean nothing," she said. "I learned that money can buy many things, but it can't buy dignity. You either have dignity or you don't. And I had it when I didn't have a dime, and I still have it now, that I have billions." She took a sip of coffee. "I also learned that family isn't just about blood. My sister and I didn't see each other for 40 years, but we never stopped being family. Love doesn't understand time or distance." Her eyes filled with tears. "And I learned that it's never too late. Never. I inherited my fortune at 71 years old, after living on the streets for 23 years. Most would have said it was too late for me, that there was no hope. But here I am, doing things I never imagined." She looked out the window. If there's anyone listening to this who thinks there's no hope, that it's too late, that life has passed them by, I want to tell you something. That's not true. As long as you're breathing, there are possibilities. As long as you have a heart, there's hope. And as long as there's love, nothing is lost. If you're listening to this story, if you've made it this far, I want you to remember something. The world can be cruel. People can be cruel. They might judge you by your appearance, by your clothes, by your bank account, by the color of your skin. But you don't have to be like that. You can choose to see people for who they are, not for what they have. You can choose to treat everyone with dignity, regardless of their situation. You can choose to be the exception in a world of prejudice. Mr. Thompson chose to be cruel, and he lost everything. Patricia chose to be dismissive, and became a meme of shame. Julie chose to be kind, and found a new life. Decisions have consequences, good and bad. Choose wisely. The bag lady was thrown out of the bank for wanting to exchange some change. 4 days later, she walked into the same bank as a billionaire, not for revenge, not to humiliate, but to teach, to remind the world that we are all human beings, that we all deserve respect, that poverty doesn't define a person's worth, and that the truth, in the end, always finds its way to the light. Auntie B still keeps that change, the same change that fell on the floor of the bank. She keeps it in a glass box in her living room, as a reminder, as a symbol. $237.50, the price of medication she could never afford, the start of a new life she never imagined. And every time she looks at it, she remembers. She remembers the cold nights under the bridge. She remembers the hunger and the thirst. She remembers the invisibility. And she remembers that now she has the power to prevent others from going through the same thing. That's worth more than $2.3 billion. Karma exists. Justice exists. And love. True love never dies. This story is proof.